All right, Tim,
Yes, sir. What's up?
I'm gonna be running the one for you this week.
Okay.
And we'll be pretty ready to go here in just a second.
So yeah, can you have the presentation then handy as well as the three handouts, because we'll kind of go back and forth a little
Will do,
bit.
sir.
Actually, I'm also gonna send you the strategic plan one from last week, because we'll.
I have
reference
that.
You do, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, strategic plan worksheet.
Okay, should have everything.
Okay, so then I don't need to put my computer up there.
Nope. You just use it for your.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Randy, what's your last name? Great to meet you. No, who do you mean? That's not true. There are some that are, Steve Schuster.
All right, and then you said you needed strategic plan from last week.
Strategic plan worksheet, 7-pager. Just reference back to that a little bit.
I got it.
Oh, yes. Oh my God, you said Randy, and I read it all to you. So I was just going out to Boston. Yeah. And so I saw Brian a week or two later, back after that, and the guy hasn't changed a bit. Yeah, I mean, he's just, we had the greatest time.
I just printed something, so I'm gonna, just my slides, I'm gonna go grab that, and then,
Okay,
so 1 minute, I'm ready if you're ready.
cool. We're on.
South of Boston, so I was like, I don't even see him. Well, he lives in Boston, and then he carpools. He's not even in school very much because he doesn't have classes. He's doing all research these days and writing books and this and that. He's got a book out right now that's fantastic. It's called The Last Warlord. This book has actually been banned by Metallica. Timing of it is really interesting. He wrote it probably 6-7 years ago. But if you have that book in Afghanistan right now, you could lose a finger. As The Last Warlord. It's a great read too. Some historians are not that interesting. This one is. Check it out.
Move this computer.
Right.
Oh, nice. Did our wives call each other?
He makes us dress up as he says we have everybody
Fancy ones. Oh, yeah.
Well, he gives us the freedom of being, but actually, I actually did the memo. I actually send pictures every morning for the next 10 minutes.
This is my thing.
It's a control thing.
Different countries or this and that. This is
Here, okay. Okay.
Brian is a change. We're having
Why is my watch playing
Say good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. All right, Dan, are we ready to go?
We are.
How many out in the interweb world?
5.
5. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Business Planning Workshop Week 3. Let's just flip right to the next slide. So this is the last week. So up until this, Tony, have you done some of this online?
I was not in last week, so I did the first week.
Okay, so then I'll try to get you the handouts, but the first few weeks we did the assessment of your current business, what you want your life to look like, and ultimately how many hours do you want to work and how much money do you need to get from your job and how many transactions do you need to do that and so forth. We did some planning, we looked at priorities, projects, pillars of client generation. We talked about assumptions as far as what's your average condition, what's your average sale price, what are your average conversion rates, things like that. We looked at the open house pillar of client generation, which we were able to dive into some numbers. This week we're going to look at the sphere pillar. Homework, how many people actually Googled the core values and the SWOT analysis? Did anybody do that? 1, 2, well, the rest of you are, I'm not saying you're not honest, Tony, I appreciate you doing it. Still, go out and do that. It's just, even if you just go through the exercise and do it and don't do anything with it again, just to get you thinking like that, I think it's valuable, especially the SWOT analysis, just to have some of this on the forefront of your mind. And Tony and anybody else for week 2, Dan, can you touch on, did you put the video out there for week 2 yet?
So today, as soon as this live is over, you guys will get a notification that last week is live. Tim's going to finish it up the third one, because obviously we're not using this big long 2-hour recording. Tim's condensing it to like an hour for the re-records or whatever. So you guys will get week 2 today as soon as this is over, and then you'll get week 3 the latest by Monday. So
yeah, I should have that done this afternoon, so whenever we can get it out there. Yeah, I think last week ended up being like an hour, 13 minutes of the actual video that's out there. But yeah, it's not just the video of me up here. It's an easier one to see. And
yeah,
hear.
it will have all the PDFs downloadable in there. And if you haven't accepted your Kajabi invite from me, just let me know. I can resend it if you can't find it or if you don't know what I'm talking about, or just search all emails from me and you'll see one saying, hey, this next email is really legit coming from this Preferred Success Kajabi thing. If you don't find any of that, just hit me up. I'll help you.
Next slide, Dano.
Okay.
Okay, so today we're going to look at the sphere pillar profile, or really it's just whatever you want to call it. It's lead generation, client generation. What's your plan for staying in touch with your sphere and getting business from your sphere? So actually, Lane, can you hand this out for me? Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Lane.
And quarterly priorities. Last week we looked at projects and started throwing some down. I have a big long list of projects to kind of jog your memory, but ultimately we want to sort those projects into priorities and kind of start getting a feel for what do you want to do right now, what do you want to do first quarter, second quarter, and you can always change that later, but it's a place to start. Yeah, you went too far forward. And the one-page strategic plan. So that is going to look like this. I don't even know if I'm being recorded. Okay.
We're good.
It's going to look like that. And again, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It just kind of takes all the stuff, puts it onto one page. It's a quick, simple place to look at it. But ultimately, you know, to really get the benefit, you need to take what's on here and do a little bit more and figure out what you need to do on a daily basis. But this is a great start. Okay, next one. So we are at the sphere. Everybody's got the sphere pillar profile sheet. And Dan, have you made that available out where people are watching?
So that's a good question. I've got the 5 on here. I will email this to you guys right now so you have it. But of course, you'll be able to get it in the link after the class too. but I will email it to the folks that are here right now.
And with these, I've got a blank one of these. If anybody wants the Word version of this, so you can edit it yourself, just email me and I'll email it to you. I've also got the PDF file that's blank, that's a fillable PDF form. So you can just go in and fill out fields just to make it easier. So if you want those, just email me and I can send them on. Okay, so does everybody in class have this? Okay, so Sphere, in my opinion, well, it's not my opinion. I'm just going to say this is just fact. This is the most important piece of your business you should focus on. If we're comparing getting business from your Sphere or online leads or open houses, this is the most important. If you don't have this done, you should start saying no to everything else until you get this done. Get something in place to do this. Now, I'm not saying cancel your open house this Sunday so you can focus on this, but it's just that important because everything else eventually funnels into this. You can do great at open houses, but those leads get put into your database. How are you following up with them? So to fill this out, how many transactions are you expecting from your Sphere? How many listings, how many buyers, average sales price, average commission. Those are all important pieces, but it's the middle part here that's really important. What is your plan? So I'm just going to go through, this isn't necessarily my plan, but this is a sample high-level look at what a plan could be. I want you to compare that to your own plan. Before I get into that, who does nothing to contact their Sphere? Somebody's lying. Somebody does nothing. Has anybody here?
Hey, Tim, stop trying to drag people down with you, man.
So no one here, I mean, I understand if somebody from your Sphere calls you, you call them back. That's not what I'm talking about. So you've all proactively contacted your Sphere, whether it's emailing, newsletters, printed, mailed, called. You've all done that?
The good question is, do you do it yearly?
Yearly, monthly, weekly, do you have a plan? Well, that's good.
The word is
Consistently is very important, yes. So good, because if you've done, and online, maybe somebody's raising your hand online, the less you've done, the greater your opportunity is to improve and get more bang for your buck or more benefit from your Sphere. So if you're all doing something already, awesome, because some of those habits are already in place. So, okay, here's a sample plan, then I want to hear some ideas from you guys. This is pretty basic. I guess the other thing I'd say is, if you're trying to improve, don't make your list this long. It'll become overwhelming and you'll end up doing nothing. So do one thing or do a couple of things, get comfortable, get used to doing that, make that a habit, and then add to it. So, monthly printed, mailed newsletter. Does anybody actually print and mail a newsletter anymore? One, and no one else. What about you? I have not done this in a couple of years, but this is my favorite. Long ago, I said, okay, I want to do this, but at a minimum, I want to send a printed, mailed newsletter every month. And if that's all I do, I can pat myself on the back at the end of the month or the end of the year and say, at least I did that. I want to do more, but I'm at least going to do that. Well, I haven't recently, but I love this idea. But it's costly. I think it ended up costing me about $1.25 a piece to hire. I think it was Sprint Print. Once I got it ready, I could email it all off, and they'd print and fold and stuff and stamp and get it sent.
And we do have that in-house now, but on top of it, you don't have to create anymore either if you're okay with just using something basic. If you want to do something custom, you can, but the 10 hours a month should be about 30 minutes if you use Megaphone. You just upload your list, use that list every month, hit the send button. That being said, it's a basic newsletter, 2 pages, like whatever. Rhonda, who's in online, or sorry, Tanya, who's online, we created a little bit more of a custom piece where it's branded with you more than just general Remax stuff. Go custom, it's going to cost you about an extra $40-50 a mailing. So you could go either way, but I like what you said, just get it done. The US mail has a huge return this year, huge. And it's just because people are overwhelmed digitally. So the tangibles are worthwhile this year for sure.
I had one of my friends tell me, I get your newsletter every month. I get it. I see you sent it. It goes right in the garbage. And he was kind of, just chiding me a little bit, chuckling a little bit. I'm like,
And it's
yeah,
working.
But I send it to you every month. I'm out there doing business. Whether you read it or not, I mean, there's value in just seeing that I'm out there and active and proactively still in this business, still doing the business. So
Well, Scott was sharing with me this morning, just getting, a CMA out to an electronics CMA out to 25 people in his sphere, and he was dumbfounded at the response. There's some people are clamoring for this, and certainly people in your sphere there are gonna even rib you for sending it because they don't need it or whatever. It's all a touch.
it's a touch, and it shows that you're doing the business. And there's all kinds of ideas like that, and a lot of us, we're just afraid to do it because what's our sphere going to think of us? Well, they're going to think we're in business. So I'm as guilty as anyone. Sometimes we're our own worst enemy and we get our own way. But printed mail newsletter doesn't have to be part of your thing, but if it is, there's a lot of different ways to do it. Try not to get bogged down in the details. If that's something you're thinking about, I've done it before, feel free to call me. We can talk about different options. Don't let the unknown or the unlimited number of options out there be a deterrent. But that to me was, okay, do that monthly. That's 12 touches in a year. At least that's something. What else can we do? Well, if we're just kind of keeping it easy and we're not actually talking about the scary part of calling people or meeting them for lunch, calendar and football schedule or magnets or something like that. A lot of you do that already. Pretty simple. Seems like, everybody's doing that. Do I need to do it? Why not? Do it. I love when I go to somebody's house, list their house, and somebody else's magnets on the fridge, but I got the listing. Well, actually, that's a bad story because that says, well, you shouldn't do that because I'm still going to get the listing. But anyways, do it because it's something. It's something that's appreciated.
When I would host open house, like with Steve, Steve Schuster, not him, but Steve would give me,
Hi, Steve.
open house, and I'd always see his magnet on every listing that he had. And I'm like,
Yeah.
geez, these things work.
Well, whether it's, the sports schedules, the calendar, whatever, a to-do list pad, whatever it is, all that kind of stuff is good. Do you have to do all of it? No, but you can do all of it. Client appreciation event. This could be a separate pillar. I have not really done these. Tony, I know you're the master. You've done a lot of these. Dan, you know a lot about this. Do you guys have
doing a lot
anything to kind of
I'm
say?
doing a lot of them now too.
They're easy to do. There's some upfront costs and depending on how extravagant you want to get, but once you get the ball rolling, people tend to flock. And again, it's that touch, just like your newsletter. Even if they throw it in the garbage, the invite, we're top of mind. They're not going to come to the Malik game or the bowling event, whatever it might be that we decide to do. But at least we invited them.
I mean,
They had a decision.
I've seen free publicity for your team in the local Oregon paper about, your pumpkins and stuff in the past. And I mean, that's awesome. So it's reaching people even outside of your sphere. Yeah.
I'll just shout out that Tyler and Elizabeth last week had at McKee Park the balloon, the Remax hot air balloon. And they had, maybe 30 people show up to their event. I don't know how many people they invited, but they had that many or more that were not invited that were at the park that made a big deal about the balloon.
Yeah.
And
They
now-
started coming over and getting pictures with it and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Whereas Lane and I used it 2 weeks before then, and we almost had a balloon catastrophe. So the wind picked up and
Oh,
it got dicey for a minute, but we got some attention for that too. So
yeah.
yeah, had me off the ground for a minute, and then he
Oh,
came
really?
over and saved the day. So
But that's a Lee and Dan show, you don't have to do this.
oh, you're saying it was our fault?
It was all planned, right? Well, Dan, I remember you said one of something I really took to heart is the event, and you kind of just said this, the event is not about the event. It's, we talk about, well, geez, yeah, I know I should reach out to my sphere, but what do I say? This is what you say. Plan an event, and the value of the event is not getting people to get a pumpkin or a pie or go to the movie theater. It's now you have a reason to pick up the phone and call your sphere. That's the reason to call. That's the reason to email. It's not an awkward one, and maybe that leads to another conversation. But I would say that's the real value in it. Not the 20 people that come. It's the 200 people that you now have a reason to call. So, any other thoughts on that? Quick, I think it's a great idea. Daniel, any good? Okay, moving on. Email once a month. I mean, what does email cost? I mean, on a list on what, MailChimp or something like that, or Constant Contact. I mean, you can send out email pretty easy. You can just do it yourself through Gmail or Outlook or whatever you use. But what do you email? Well, you can email a newsletter. Again, you can make your own or do something basic. But again, it's a touch. You could do a printed newsletter and an email newsletter. You can just do email. I think printed is a little more effective than email these days, but email is a lot cheaper. So if cost is more of a concern, don't let that stop you from at least doing email.
And there's a free newsletter in Luge that you can send out, and it keeps stats like who opened it, who unsubscribed, who didn't open it.
And I think combining them is a really good idea in this market, in this day and age, for not just the cost savings that Tim's talking about, but like 12 email newsletters from your real estate agent when you only use them once every 8 years, you're getting unsubscribed. Unless that person really loves that particular tip every month or whatever. There's going to be people that stand. My point is, you might want to go to quarterly intangible, and then maybe just pick a couple of the other months to send it instead of doing it every single month or whatever. Multi-touch, multi-platform. We should be trying to diversify as much as we can there.
You mentioned Booge. We talked about other programs. Your database. All of this is really hard to do if you don't have your database up to date. So even at a higher level, then what are you going to do to contact your database, your sphere? Is you need to keep it organized. And there's a lot of ways to do that. It can be on paper. Most of us aren't doing that anymore. But certainly it could be in Excel. Depends on how elaborate do you get with, I talked to that person, so I have to jot down my notes and sending follow-up dates. And I mean, you can get really elaborate and really organized. Try not to spend 20 hours a week setting all this stuff up, but there has to be a good balance. The more organized you are and the more up-to-date your database is, the easier all of this is. I know that one of the roadblocks I ran into in my own head with getting my newsletter out was not just getting the newsletter together. It's, oh man, I got to update my database list first, so I'm sending it to the right list. And that might be, these 2 people have to come off and these 3 people have to come on, and I know I didn't make those updates earlier this month, so I need to do that. That's a habit that you should have, is constant, just so your database is always up to date. You can click and filter and say, yep, these are all the people with the newsletter checkbox checked. So try to get that habit, because that makes all of this a lot easier. Make some type of contact with your top 100 2 times a year. I mean, fill in your own number, top 50, top 500, whatever it is, but maybe you do a little bit more. Maybe it's a custom contact. Maybe it is 100 people, and you wanna contact them 2 times a year, so that's 200 contacts. Divided by 12, that's roughly 20 per month. So if you wanna do just this line, well, just that line, do that in a year, well, that sounds great. Well, let's make it real, break it down. That's 20 contacts a month, and this isn't a mass blast. This is more of a custom contact. Maybe it's not a phone call, but maybe it's stalk them on social media a little bit, comment on their post. Or maybe it is shoot them an email, or figure out some way to make contact that with that person in your database that's a little more personal. Again, this is your top 100. These aren't random people in your database that you've never talked to. This is maybe your top 100. So if you think about that, that's 20 a month. Well, that's 1 a day. All of a sudden it becomes real. Can I do 1 a day? If you decide to do, you can. So if that's part of your plan, that's how you break it down into what do I have to do on a daily basis. And then, actually what I just said is not what it, my bottom one says make personal contact. But again, make the list whatever you want it to be. I was thinking personal contact here and phone calls down here. Who do you actually want to call? Your top 20, your top 100, your top 200? So there's no right or wrong answer. I would say the wrong answer is I'm not going to call anybody. The right answer is call somebody. How many people you call and how often, do you just call them and make contact? You call your top 20 or 50 and invite them out to coffee or lunch? That's all up to you, but make the plan and then make your plan on how to execute it. But this plan, it ended up being a total of $4,600 per year, based on what I think all that's going to cost. And I'm expecting 12 transactions. So in order to pull those transactions out of my sphere, it cost me $383 per transaction. If I look at that on an advertising basis, with my average commission, I'm spending 5.5% of my average commission on advertising, I guess is what I would call that. That's fairly cheap if you were to go out and spend money on leads at another source. And hours per week, this lead source takes me 4.7 hours to do that every week. Is that real? Is that a real number? Well, it depends on these things and what you're doing. So it's not that this is right. This is the formula for you to go through and kind of think through this on your own.
And just to expound on that, you're going to be at different efficiency levels when you do something for the first time versus the 20th time. So these times, could be set this year, and then next year cut them all in half.
Yeah.
Because maybe you got better at it, or maybe you're paying someone else to do it for cheaper than you could do it in time, or whatever else. But just know this is so individualistic. Don't copy somebody else's and then be like, yeah, that's my plan. I promise you'll really appreciate taking the time to calculate time and not just money. Everybody wants to talk about coaching you on money, but it's irrelevant if you're always trying to shove 8 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag over and over every year because you're not accounting for the time. So that's my big preach on the time part. Look at it.
And that was always the big overlooked piece of online leads. Yeah, they cost money, but geez, I can justify it. But then you add in the time factor. And, if there's a lead source where the cost is high and the time input is high, maybe it's not such a great source. This bottom left corner, that's where I really like it. Now, this middle section, even that may be too complicated. It's not if you have your system, but you could have one line. This is what I'm going to do. Whatever it is, do it. But then down here, how can you improve? What more could you do? How could you do it better? And how could you get more efficient? But until you have a place to start, there's nothing to improve. So start with something, even if it's bad, and then work on improving it. Working on improving it might become one of your priorities for one of your quarters to work on. Okay. Any questions on this? Thoughts? Ideas?
Our great coach Peter Mueller said, what you measure gets improved.
Very true. Okay. Next slide. Quarterly priorities, okay. Lane, I need your assistance. That's what you get for sitting up front. And can you half and half and bring up the next slide then?
You bet.
Thanks, sir. See, if this were just a touch screen.
You can do that now. I'll do it.
A lot more expensive, but we used to sell those.
You just gotta clean it when we're done.
Yeah, have you been to your kids' schools?
Yeah.
Smart screens, I'm like, geez, I went to university, there's none of that technology there. They got it in the kids' kindergarten.
Okay, so here, as far as working on our priorities, we need to back up to our projects list, because that's where we're gonna look at and say, well, these are the most important, these are what's gonna become a priority. And, oh, okay, fine. I was gonna say, refer back to pages 5 and 6. I was looking at the strategic plan worksheet. It's not on here. The 5-piece worksheet, I believe that was week 1. Anyway, somewhere in your documents, you should have that project list. If you don't, well, go back and make that. But ultimately, what's more important is, what are your priorities? What are you gonna work on? If you have 25 projects, that's overwhelming. But if you break that down into, over the next 3 months, I'm gonna work on these 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, it's a lot more manageable. So, prioritizing means, well, somebody said this once, and I thought it was great. If everything's a priority, then nothing's a priority. You've probably heard that, but everything can't be important. Because if everything's important, everything's the same, which means nothing's more important than the other. So say no to some so you can focus on others. On this quarterly priority matrix, this is where we're gonna put them. So right now, it's what, beginning of November, we've got a month and a half, 2 months left before the end of the year. This is really planning for 2022, but that doesn't mean you don't have to do anything between now and the end of the year. So from your projects list, what do you think you can get done, or what do you want to get done before next year? Make that your top section here. Time frame by 12/31/2021. What are some of your projects that you want to get done? The middle section here, 2022, quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4. Looking out over the next year, pick some of those projects. Which are important? Which ones do you want to do first? This is going to be a moving target. This is going to change throughout the year, but at least have a plan going in. And then the bottom, list a few more that are important, but that you're giving yourself permission to not worry about until 2023. And that's okay. Just don't try to get everything done, because you'll end up failing and be demotivated. Estimate your hours too. I like to put a little note there. How many hours is it going to take? Some projects might take 4 hours total. Some projects might take 100 hours. Well, figure that out. You don't want to have 5 projects in that are going to take 100 hours. And if you have a big project that's going to take 100 hours, maybe that's all you focus on for a quarter. Okay, let's move on now. Any questions on priorities? Okay, cool.
Can somebody throw out some quarterly projects that are on the top of your mind right now? Just as ones that you're gonna put on your list. One of mine's a Google review project for the whole year. Like, I've helped other people do it for years and years. Time for me to redo a new one and a new business profile. Does anybody have projects like that? Michael?
I would say, this is a great time of year, people have a little bit of time, just check in when your comp comes by.
So checking in with your top 25.
How things are going, check on them, update them, have them update you, just say hi.
It can be time consuming, but a handwritten card quarterly. To, your packers to your top 50.
I love the handwritten note idea. I mean, if you actually make it part of your daily practice, even if it's one note per day, you get your stationery, you get your envelope, your stamps, and everything ready, and it's just, it's at your office, whether that's your home office, whether it's here, it's hard to do it if it's scattered all over, but once it's all set up, just, who am I gonna write a note to today?
So here's a version. You know those little kits you guys have? So I had a half a box. There's like 20 of them in there. I had like 19 deals. I'm like, cool. Let me handwritten notes. So I made a little thing that fit in there. And I wrote on there, I hope everything's well, blah, blah, blah. I haven't heard from anyone yet. I'm trying to figure out, is my handwriting that bad if they don't understand? Dang it, this is a good thing or not? I don't know. But don't reply to the notes from me, God.
They give the kids draw a stick figure and say, this is from me, or whatever.
Yeah, that's funny.
Thank you notes. I mean, I've gotten away from that and I realized that I need to just get back to it and I've been on 6 a week.
And you're just seeing general things,
Just
right?
there's whatever we were thankful for. Of course, you would have better spray a line and it makes them feel special. I appreciate it.
It's not a form letter,
That's good.
So I
That was my idea of the
You
thing.
get a good amount of responses from handwritten notes. So I did the Google review thing and I got about 19 of them off of one mass email.
Yeah,
And just past clients and stuff. And then I did a handwritten note to everybody that filled one out with a $5 Starbucks gift card in it. And said, hey, let's meet for coffee and catch up and see how things are going. Nobody met me for coffee, but I probably got about 10 email responses from the handwritten note saying, wow, thank you.
nice.
It asking if the gift card is real.
Well, and that's ideal, you get some interaction going back and forth. I think that's ultimately what you're looking
I
for.
pulled a referral from one of those.
Nice, yeah. So it's just, boy, doing something. And I know, Dan, you've got some stories. Sometimes you do something by mistake and it ends up being better than if it was perfect because it's funny or it's messed up.
Yep, Rico dropped off his Remax jacket. It got me a Loveland, Colorado referral that's going to pay me about $2,500. So I got to send him a message saying thanks for letting me wear your jacket. Just made me $2,500.
Nice.
Accident.
I used to get more response from people when I told past clients what their neighbor's house sold for, the 3 in the block. And I'd send a handwritten, just send me an MLS sheet with a handwritten note on it saying, now your home is worth this.
As you were saying that,
They hurt since.
it made me think, we've all heard all these little ideas, the handwritten note, the just sold postcard. All of these things seem small, simple, like they're relatively insignificant, so I'm not gonna do it. But yet everybody has stories about this worked and that worked and that worked. And we can't do everything, but we can do more than nothing. And I mean, just those simple little things. Put that on your plan to help make sure you do it. I think when you write it down and you plan to do it, it just makes it more likely. Okay, 1-page strategic plan. This is really the goal, to get it down on here, and then from here you have to break it down to your monthly and daily things that you need to do. But Dan, scroll me up there.
You got.
Okay. So I know not all of you, maybe most of you, did not do the core values. Again, I said, do this. It sounds silly, I don't need that stuff. Just do it. It takes like 10 minutes to go Google it, and bring it down and circle the things and do the memory jogger. Because ultimately here, you want to list some of your core values. It doesn't need to be 10, it could be 3, but what is your business about? How do you want to act? Just have some guiding principles, I guess. It doesn't have to be one word like integrity, but that's a good one. I like, getting the job done while the customer, always improving systems. I mean, what is your business about? How is it customer focused? How is it, team member focused? How is it profit focused, or just whatever it means to you? Let's just put that down in writing. Okay, next one.
You want a couple share?
Yes.
We did that many years ago, the core values, and it is kind of your beacon. It kind of guides you on why you do what you do. I remember I think I had 6 of them, but I remember one of them was daily disciplines and improving things that you do in your business, your real estate skills, whether it's role playing or whether it's perfecting a better follow-up call or investments, daily disciplines and improving your skill sets. And another one was always striving to create a win-win negotiation. And I know there's several others, but them two that I've been called off the top of my head.
And as you know, striving to create a win-win, that wouldn't, we've worked with some people who, that's not one of their core values. Right? So I think it's important to know, is that a core value for you? Because some people would say, I'm going to squeeze every last dollar I can out of this business, and I don't care what people think of me or what I have to do to get it. Well, if that's your core value, own it and write it down. But if that's not your core value, I think it's just good to have that beacon, I guess, of this is the direction we want to go. Yeah.
So anyway, thanks.
Anybody else have something to share? That are willing to share? I shared 4 of mine. Okay. This one's complicated. To me, it's always been. We've all, and maybe it is to all of you, mission, vision, dream, purpose, all this stuff. So I say, let's not make it too complicated, because you try to define the difference between mission and vision, and we're kind of missing the point of what we're trying to get out of the planning. So don't worry if you're doing the planning right. And whatever you think it means when you talk about a mission statement or a vision statement, that's fine. Just do that. Keep it simple. What do you want out of your business? Is the purpose of your business, I want to make money? Well, that's fine. And if that's all it means to you, that's okay. Or does it mean something more? So let's assume your client has already committed to work with you. You know you're going to get paid. So you're past that point of making the money. Now, what's your vision, purpose, and so forth? Go ahead and scroll up, Dan. So a couple of samples. Own a respected business that allows me the freedom to do what I want and the money to pay for it. Well, that's not so bad. It could be more specific, but at least it talks about, it's not just about making money, it's what are you going to do with the money.
Owning business.
Owning business.
Talking about owning business and enjoying and pride of that.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Some people don't care about owning a business. Some people, they take a lot of pride in, I'm a business owner and my business is respected. Other people don't care if their business is respected. And then, again, there's no wrong answer. Generate $300,000 in gross commission income in 2022 to net $200,000 in pre-tax take-home money. That's better than saying, purpose of my business is to make a lot of money. At least this is specific. You know what your top line needs to be, you know what your expenses are. That's a goal, it's just not a very fuzzy one. Warm and fuzzy one, it is a little bit fuzzy. Earn $500,000 per year working 40 hours per week or less while taking weekends off and 6 weeks of vacation a year. I like this one better. Put whatever numbers you want in there, but now we're talking about not just money, but lifestyle. How much time am I going to put into it? What do I get out of it for vacation? And then the bottom one, this is the more warm and fuzzy one. Develop the absolute best consumer experience and deliver it to as many clients as possible in a manner profitable enough to provide the financial resources for all of our team members to achieve their goals. This is a better one if you have a team, you have team members, so you're focused on how is your business going to benefit your customers, your clients? How is it going to benefit your team members or employees? So it's a little more all-encompassing. It just doesn't talk about money or time, things like that. You know, it could be something like, delight one customer and then do it again. Just focus on one customer at a time and then one more. And then, so whatever this means to you, put something down. It might seem silly, I don't need that, I just need to know hours and money, but no, put it down. Doesn't need to be today, but I think it's important. Okay, go ahead, Dan. Yes, sir.
I want me to throw in a comment. I think what helped me a lot is to actually do one for my business and do one for my personal, and then look at them, prioritize them a little bit, and then try to figure out how I can mesh the two together.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm doing what I want to do and enjoying it, and also still taking care of, you know, family obligations and running my business. So
That's a good point.
it's hard, but I think you need to kind of like almost write it separately and then try to figure out how you can, you know, how you can manage them.
Because you don't want to say, do whatever it takes to grow my business. Because you don't want to do that at the detriment to your family.
Of your health, family, and helping yourself out.
And also, you could have several mission, vision, dream, purpose statements that you could say, well, okay, how do I want to be with my customers or clients? Make a different one about money or hours. Make a different one about employees or team members. Make a different one about how you're respected as a business. So again, however you want to do that, think through it and write something down. Okay. The 10-year crazy goal. I think this is good to have because, you know, we all look out 1 year, but what about if we look out 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Where are we headed in general? And in 10 years, it doesn't have to be, I want to make $1 million or I want to make more money. Maybe maybe the money you make now is fine, but you want to do it in half the time and buy some of your time back. But again, estimate based on what you think your crazy goal would be. How many transactions would that take? Is this even possible? If you're making $70,000 a year now, throw a crazy number out there: 300, 500,000, even $1 million. Now, $1 million a year may sound crazy. It's possible. People do it. It's kind of fun to think about. Let's say there is a right answer to how could you make $1 million per year. Just assume that there is a way. And then, because your first thought was, well, there's no way. That's most people's general thought. But what if you absolutely knew there is a way? And then your mind starts working on, well, what if I did this? What if I did that? It's just an interesting exercise to go through to assume that you could do it. Figure out what you'd have to do. Now, once you see what you'd have to do, you may say, hell no, I'm not going to do that. So that's not my crazy goal, but it is possible. But most of us wouldn't do what we needed to do because it would affect other parts of our life. But I do think it's possible too to do it and not affect other parts of your life. Anyways, just think about it. It's a good exercise to go through. Was your hand up? Okay. Sorry. You can go like that. I won't call on you. Hey, where you going? Where you going?
You were done.
Oh yeah. Okay. 3 to 5 year goal. Not as exciting as the 10-year goal, but it might feel a little more realistic because you can almost reach out and touch it. It gets you looking past just the next year. So think about your crazy 3 to 5 year goal. If that seems unattainable this year or next year, well, what would have to change? Do you have to work more and harder? Do you need to start working on getting better sleep, better nutrition, more exercise? Do you need to start a team in order to grow? Do you need to hire an assistant, just get more organized? Do you need to meet more people? How are you going to do that? Speaking on meeting new people, I was going to mention this in the Sphere pillar profile. I was thinking of, there's no one way to break out your sources. I was in a bowling league up until 2007, I think, is the last time I bowled in that league. There was like 20 people in the league, pretty small league. I bowled in it for 5 years, maybe 6 years, and I did it for fun. But I was adding them up this morning, and I think I pulled 7 transactions out of that bowling league over the years. So you think about, well, what's my lead source gonna be? Well, maybe you should think about, I don't need a lead source or a client source or a transaction source. I need a people source. How am I gonna meet more people? Not only meet them, but build relationships with more people. Well, if you like bowling, join a bowling league. I mean, that's a great idea. Or golf, or bridge, or I mean, whatever it is, do something that you enjoy. Just go meet more people. It's just a way to grow your database and improve your relationship with those people. And speaking of that, okay, if you're going to do more business, if you're going to make more money in a few years, maybe you better join that bowling league now, because it's going to take a few years before they know you, like you, trust you, respect you, and so forth. Okay, upwards. 1 year goal. This is where we start getting, well, this is where we start getting a little more serious. This is what really counts, because this is what we need to start working on. It's close enough to feel real. It's far enough away that we can still actually make it happen. This isn't something that's going to happen tomorrow. So, for your 1 year goal, kind of what we've worked on up to this point, how much money do you need to make? How many transactions? Where will those transactions come from? And it's okay to list a pillar or a lead source that you don't know if it will produce anything. And it's also okay to list a lead source that maybe you expect it to produce something, but you have no plans to nurture it. Is bowling league a lead source? Kind of. I'm not in a league now, but I might get business from that. But to me, that's really my sphere now. But you may have lead sources that you're not going to nurture. That's okay. Just recognize them. Okay. Next slide, sir.
Maybe.
Maybe.
There it is.
On the strategic plan, you don't need to, I mean, if you want to, you can fill this out today. But really, this is probably something you should spend some time on. Fill it out in a little more detail later. But think about your time. Dan, can you bring up tricky? So
Give me a second.
in the middle section here, it's the 1 year goal. That's the bigger section than the 10 and 3 year goals. On the top, we talk about income and pillars. In the middle, we talk about hours, your time input. So a lot of this is from the strategic plan worksheet that Dan just had up. We don't need that back. Oh, look at you, you're talking.
I'm getting
now.
better at it.
But it just refers back to, you have all these numbers already if you did that worksheet, but how much time are you spending in your overhead? How much time are you spending on your priorities, and how much time per client, how much time for lead client transaction generation? Fill that in so you know that this is my plan. This is how much I'm going to work each week. Next one, sir. And your budget. I learned once that if you have a plan and your plan says you're going to spend this much on marketing, whether you're buying online leads, whether you're sending out newsletters, if that's your plan, you should spend the money. Because if you don't spend the money, you're probably not going to get the results. So have it in the plan that this is the plan, this is what you're going to spend. And obviously, if you're not if all of a sudden your year goes south, you may have to adjust with your expenses a little bit, but make sure you find the time to spend that money according to plan. And again, we look at fixed expenses, optional expenses, how much money are you gonna spend on your pillars, your sphere marketing, and whatever else you spend money on. And your per transaction cost for buyers and sellers. So most of this is just from the worksheet that we did last week. So fill in all these blanks so it ends up on your one page. Okay, next one, Dan. So we just did the quarterly, well, we didn't do it, but you will do it. Ultimately, you want to put your quarterly priorities on this sheet as well. So again, you can look at them and you're not just looking at quarter one, but you can see 2, 3, and 4. I think we all estimate, again, I'm just kind of regurgitating quotes sometimes, but it seems appropriate. Most people overestimate what they can get done in a day. Most of us grossly underestimate what we can get done in a year. So if it's all laid out, it's going to look like a lot of projects throughout the year. But if you spend a little time each day doing those projects, you can knock a lot. You can get a lot done in a year. So obviously, there's not a lot of detail on those projects or priorities in this one page. So all of those need to be broken down. So part of planning for each quarter is to spend some time making sure these are the priorities and break those down as far as what do you need to do monthly? Have some milestones or some benchmarks. What do you need to do weekly or daily?
Can I throw in just an offer to everybody that might be watching too, or whatever? Just the priorities, Q1 through Q4. If you want to take a screenshot of that or shoot me a photo of that, I will write down what you decided. And throughout each quarter of the year, I will call you and ask you how that project is doing, how I can support you to get it done. It's just a free accountability coaching thing I'll do for anybody that wants. Just share it with somebody. If you write this down and hide it, it's not nearly as effective than sharing it with someone. Okay?
Yeah, very true.
And I won't yell at you. A lot.
Next slide. The SWOT analysis, I've just got a spot down here at the bottom. And we haven't talked about, what should you do with these? And I think a lot of the value in the SWOT analysis is just the awareness of them. And I think naturally out of that, and by keeping them in front of you, especially your opportunities you should probably act on. That should become a priority in one of your quarters. And your weaknesses, sometimes your weaknesses, good enough. You just accept it and you don't dwell on it. Sometimes a weakness you should work on if that's something that would benefit you to improve on. Sometimes it's best to take something you're good at and become great at it. And then your threats, well, yeah, it's good to know what those are as well. Okay.
That just happens to be a good plug for Tim's next class, the first Thursday in December. How to self-improve. So that's going to be all about taking strengths, weaknesses, and working on the how. How would I go about making a weakness a strength? How can I capitalize more on a strength? What should I actually maybe be doing to improve myself, even outside of real estate? That'll be the first Thursday, same time frame as we did this.
And that class, thank you, Dan. That class is going to be, it's not really real estate or business specific, although that's one piece of areas that you may want to improve on. But physical, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, break it down however you want. Productivity, family, relationships. It's let's take a look at all the different areas and the different ways you might want to improve. And then how do you do it? How do you plan for it? How do you keep yourself accountable? You can go crazy with self-improvement. And we're not trying to go crazy, but I think just in an hour and a half, just by, even if all you do is listen, I think you're gonna get some ideas, you'll pull something out of that. Whether it's something you didn't think of before, yeah, I would like to improve on that, or whether it's how to do it. So I think it's gonna be cool, I'm excited about that class. I don't have it all laid out yet, but all the ideas are rumbling around, so I hope to see everybody there. Okay, next slide. So this one-page plan, it's not a daily activity list. You still need to break things down to figure out how are you going to accomplish those things. It's really just points you in the right directions. It gives you, I don't want to say it gives you something to shoot for. You shouldn't be shooting for it. You should be committing to get these things done if you've decided they're important, but it's important to know what you want to get done. You still need to break down the pillars, the priorities. So this isn't the end all be all, so there's still more work to be done that obviously we don't cover in this class. Keep this visible, make some copies. Make it the background on your desktop. I mean, I know no one's gonna do that, so I'm getting a little crazy, but don't just throw this in a folder and never look at it again. Keep this out in front of you, so make a few copies. And like Dan said, share this plan, be accountable.
I follow Tom Ferry on Facebook, and he said, "You want the best accountability? Promise your kids you'll go to Disney World if you meet your goals, and they will keep you accountable throughout the whole year." I thought that was really good. I don't know if I do it, but I like it.
Who had some cool goals? Because like my folks said, if I got straight A's my senior year, I'd get a Harley. Deep down, I knew even if I got straight A's, there was
No
going to be no Harley. But I still tried my butt off, and I even tried to bribe a teacher to get out of that A minus that cost me the Harley I probably wasn't going to get. So it worked.
Actually, I think the best way to keep yourself accountable is sign a contract with me that says you're gonna pay me $100 if you don't hit your goal. So I'm willing to do that for everybody here.
Thanks for taking one for the team, Tim.
What, make it 1,000.
I think Tim, this brings up to mind too, every independent agent I sit down with annually says they just don't get to these things.
Yeah.
But this might be the perfect way to create a job description for the person and get you to the things to get done that you don't like to do, and that accountability person then.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say to me, I'm not sure if I have enough work for an admin or even a part-time person, but this might help clarify what you do have for work.
Right.
And that accountability person all built in one.
Yeah, I think just going through this process and really listing out all those projects, I think that's a good first step into realizing what are all the areas where I could improve and how much work is there, and then you can kind of balance, it takes this much work, but this is how much it would improve my business, because I think you have to believe that these projects are worthwhile doing, and once you believe that, then you just need to figure out how to get it done. Okay, next slide. So we're winding down here on the class. Takeaways. Manage what you can control. Manage the activities you might not otherwise do. So again, manage what you can control. You can't control how much money you're going to make next year directly. But you can control the activities you do daily that lead to that or don't lead to that. So manage things within your control. Manage the process, not the outcome. If you do an open house and no one shows up, you don't quit on open houses. You just do it again. You do it again, and you try to improve the process. Manage the activities you might not otherwise do. You're always gonna go on showings when the buyer calls. Do the things that you don't have to do. Make the phone call to your sphere. Be proactive. Measure the things that make a difference. Measuring is very important. And it's not that hard once you kind of get a system down. And there's different ways to do it, whether you're measuring numbers, Whether you're just keeping a little journal every night or every morning and saying, did I do this? And then look back at it throughout the year. But if you measure something, measure the results. If you never even go back and look at it, just the fact that you know you're going to be asking yourself tonight, did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? You're more likely to do it, even if you never end up looking at that again. When calculating return on investment, it's not just money. Look at hours as well. Ask yourself periodically, is what I'm doing right now helping me reach my goals? You have to know what your goals are, and that's kind of the point of having the plan. So you have your plan. Is what you're doing now when you think you're working, is that helping you get closer or not get closer? And this to me is a big one. It's okay to say no, and you should say no to a lot of things. Whether it's, a lot of times it's ourselves trying to do too much, so we end up getting overwhelmed and not doing anything. But it's also okay to say no to other people if they're trying to steal some of your time. Say no to most so you can focus on what's important. One more slide. Extra credit. So, just like the Darren Hardy core values assessment, there's a habit assessment. Again, this is a quick, interesting exercise to go to. It just says, hey, if you want to achieve this, who do you have to become? What do you have to do on a daily basis? What do your habits have to become in order to accomplish that? And it might be, well, I want to earn $200,000 in 2022. Okay, well, if you didn't earn that this year, what might have to be different next year in order to accomplish that? Or be a husband, wife, mother, father that you would be proud of, that your spouse and kids would be proud of, or when you look back, you'd be proud of. Well, what does that mean to you, and what type of person do you have to become in order to do that? And is it important enough for you to actually make those changes?
Can I say, I think when you suggested this in the past, it was the first time when I learned I wanted to trade watching TV for exercise. And it was only, and there's a point to me sharing this, I was embarrassed to share with anybody how much TV I watched in a week. So I didn't share it with anybody. But so it took me way longer to swap out watching TV with what I really wanted was to lift, like to be in better shape, go do more sports. That's just what I want. It's not what everybody wants. But I was really embarrassed that I was spending that 9-10 hours a week watching TV, and I really only needed 5 hours to get fit. And I couldn't do it. And it took a really long time. But the more I saw the hours that I spent on certain apps on my phone and started tracking my time, eventually it became not just embarrassing that I didn't want to share it with anyone, it became embarrassing to myself. Like it finally broke me down not sharing. So that's a big one. If you aren't being honest about your own habits,
And you said track your time. I did that. I downloaded an app. I think I wrote an article in one of the newsletters a couple of years ago of download an app, and I broke my day down and I went down into, I think, 5 different areas. Sleep, work, like personal care,
self-care,
brushing my teeth, showering, and things like that. I think with the free version, I could have 5 categories, so I broke it down. One of them was, how much time am I spending just doing kid stuff, parent stuff, running to the store, getting groceries, productive. And then how much time did I spend goofing off or recreational, or, did I take a nap? Did I browse Facebook or something that really wasn't that productive? Watch TV. I did that for 2 weeks, and I would recommend that you do that. And really, because a lot of times we think we're working harder than we do if we're really going to be honest with ourselves. We think we worked an 8-hour day, and it really was 6 hours plus 2 hours of goofing off. Yeah, how much time do you watch TV? 9 or 10 hours sounds like a lot, but That's 2 hours a night. Well, I used to watch probably that much or more. Now I hardly watch any at all, but that doesn't sound that high, but you can take that time and do something else. But whatever it is for you, track your time for a week or two. You might be interested in the results. Okay, that is all I have. Any questions, comments?
What app did you use to track? You know,
No. I'd have to
Well,
look back.
And here's a better one. You've already got it. So both Android and iPhones now have that trackability of your time. It tracks your apps, but then you can add things to it. If you're just looking for one that's free that you can use yourself and track, you can use Google Keep. That's a reminder note taker for Google. But if you literally just Google time tracker, it's very deep. There are hundreds now of apps for this stuff. I agree with tracking it. Don't get hung up on what system to do it with. You're only going to do it for a short period of time so you can discover some things. So even if it's a yellow notepad and you try to track your day for 2 weeks, just keep that notepad for 2 weeks, screw the app. If it's going to make it more complicated, then it needs to be go non-tech. Did you ever think I would say
The
that?
one I did, it was very simple, where it had 5 options. I pull it up, start, stop. It was easy enough that I have to go to the bathroom, start. I get back, stop. And if I mess something up, I could go back and edit it. And if anybody wants to know which one I used, I don't even know if it's still out there. This was a couple of years ago when I did it. Just email me and I'll email you. I can email you the article I wrote. I think it was a year or 2 ago, but it have that in there. I don't even know if it's on my phone anymore, but I looked at 3 or 4 different ones, and this was simple. Because if it's not simple, you won't do it. If you're not tracking everything, if it's too complicated, well, then you're going to have holes in your results. It won't be as productive. Ashley, do we have some giveaways?
yes, you do. You can end the Zoom times.
That's a big of a double.
Anybody who hasn't won gets a ticket. We're trying to spread the win. Love. Sorry, Lane. Sorry, Robert.
It's all right. I'm already a winner.
You guys ever noticed the winners sit here?
There's a couple of
Set in the same spot.
Anybody online have anything they want me to share with everybody before I kill the meeting?
Congregate together.
Why keep track of what?
So you're here.
What's it?
No?
It's almost the end of that season, but
After that.
until the snow happens.
Right? Who's weekend?
It's 60 this week, though.
Alright.
Yeah.
So just like last 2 weeks, Preferred Success is gonna give away 1 month free subscription for the Digital Boost and the custom marketing subscriptions that we have, but it's just a good way for you guys to kind of see what we can do, and if maybe you are interested in getting involved, this is kind of a good way to get like a test run. So I'll have Wayne do some of these.
A lot of pressure.
This is for the 120.
Don't mess it up, Lane.
Yeah.
All right, winner is.
I'll still log in.
I didn't.
All right, go ahead.
Winner is 3, 8, 7.
Yeah.
Big money, big money, big money.
I make it two look like.
All right.
Don't look this time.
Yeah.
I didn't look last time. 3, 8, 4.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for coming. We've got subs being provided by Pam and I today. And if you guys, Randy I know is here. Guys, you need help with your health insurance. Just know he's sitting right here. He's helping me this year. I had no idea. He finally got, not sorry, health, if I said life out loud. But health insurance, open enrollment just started again. It's only once a year. Don't be an idiot like me and pay for a maternity rider when you're already fixed and your wife ain't having it. So,
Even,
Yeah.
even if you're just renewing the plan, even if you're
Dawn,
just renewing the plan you have.
Ira, anybody have any announcements just as far as?
Look at it, see
Yeah,
if
we're
they've
gonna
changed anything on you.
We're gonna have a happy hour next Thursday, and it's gonna be game night theme, so bring your games.
Rock and roll.
Any suggestions?
Either here or upstairs, depending on how many
Yep,
folks.
it'll be here, and we'll have drinks and that.
So next Thursday night, just a hangout.
Yeah.
cocktails and games. All right.
We're game. Yeah, I just know.
Bye, Justin. Bye, Rhonda.